Hello, time to do the overlay. Let's have a look at what we got so far. This is the insides of our 7-foot project bullwhip. Plaiting's fairly straight. And what I've done is undone that little hitch that held the ends together and bound them all, so I can now insert this into the centre of the English eye and plait towards the butt. Bias is pretty straight now that I've rolled it and everything, and it actually goes very nicely as is. So far so good. Meanwhile, the 5-footer, I've done the belly up for that, yeah, pretty straight, and I don't need to bind the ends here because I'm plaiting this one from the butt, pretty much like this, and that's the effect that you get on the butt when you plait the strands from the middle like so. So yeah, the overlay of this one, 12 strands, going from 6 down to 3 mils. These are going to be, as I say, plaited from the butt, so they're paired, beveled, whatever, the same way. As you can see, the bevels are edge up, so that come overlay time, when this is dragged along, well, it won't be dragged along the ground, it's one of my babies, isn't it? It won't act like scales going backwards and pick up dirt, it'll do it the right way. Anyway, been through all that. So there's 12 strands, which will drop down to an 8-strand point. So I made 4 of them, a little bit shorter. This one's going to have a plaited Dyneema fall, and the strand ends, like the strand ends of the belly being the core of the overlay at that point, are going to be the core of the Dyneema fall. These just come down to 3 mils down to the end of the whip nominally, and since I cut them as pairs, they're all these 4 are the same length. I could have adjusted it and made 2 a little bit shorter, but I'm not quite that parsimonious on leather, and it is nice to have the choice of which ones to drop. Now, let's have a look at graphs as well, see what we've got so far. There's the graph of the 7-footer. 6 inches, that's parallel sided fiberglass. Then it tapers down to the end of the 14-inch handle, tapers down a little bit more and then flattens out a bit. So it's actually quite flat. There's a little bit of a drop here at this point at the end of the last belly strand, but that seems to be a bit of an anomalous reading compared with the general line of the rest of it. Anyway, it's looking quite good. As far as I can tell, for a lead-weighted whip, I haven't really done that many graphs of these. Meanwhile, the 5-footer, rather steeper, same length scale. In fact, same scale, both for length and diameter. Looking okay, a bit of a wobble. More so than you'd expect from the course. There was probably quite a bit of variation in leather thickness, a couple of points of a mil, but generally not too bad, I wouldn't say. And does that handle? A bit more difficult to tell with the strands like that, but yeah, that goes. Worth investing time and effort on an overlay. Right, now the overlay is going to be for the, let's just have a look at the notes. Right, 5-foot bullwhip. Here is the plan. Overlay from the butt, 12 to 8 strands, 8 to the end and 4 to 3 mils, 1.2 second set, same height. Right, that's 78 inches of tapered thong, and it tapers from 3 to 6 because it's going to be I start the cut at the point, go up to the butt and then back down to the point as double taper strands as per the belly. So 4 intervals of 6.5 inches at 3 mils, 3 to 6 by 78 inches, which works out at 6.5 inches per quarter, which defines the interval. And then 3 intervals at 6, which are up and down the grip, multiplied by 1.5 to allow for the plaiting distance. Just the same as the belly, in fact, format. However, for the overlay, I'm doing it the other way around. I'm starting off at the wide end, tapering the strands down to the point for the English eye, and then back up again to the butt. So any spare is going to be at the butt end. Means more wastage, because it's wider and there are more strands at the butt end to throw away when you've, thrown away your spare. Anyway, the formula works out at the salient part being 4.5 mils to 3 mils. It's a 16 strander, works out at 4.5 mil wide, by 108 inches. Now it should be 117 inches, which would be 84 minus the 6 inches parallel section, multiplied by 1.5. But my wee bit of stick, see, only gives a grip for 9 inches. So what I've done is increase these 12 intervals, 12 eighths, to 13 intervals, and had one at 3 mils at the point, which gives a manageable length for that. Now, that's not the end of it. That's just the first 4 strands, the first 4 double taper strands, or 2 pairs of. Then I've got all the strands to splice in. These I'm going to cut as a pair like this to a yoke. I have a short 3-inch yoke, skive that away as much as possible. One of these will go left, one will go right, and as they travel through the same portion of leather together, they'll equal each other out, as explained in cutting the leather earlier, right? And here I've worked out where. Let's see, I've drawn 78 inches worth. There's a 6-inch handle section, which doesn't get included, with 8 strands, 12, 10, 12, 14 and 16 strand sections. It's a fairly straight taper. There'll be fairly regular intervals. These are 15.6 inches apart on the whip, and underneath there are the intervals between 3 mils and 4.5 in 1/8 mils. What I've done is draw the point down from where the strands are going to come in, splice in, to whichever is the nearest interval at the narrower end. So I've always got a few inches more, like here, where it goes down to 3 3/4 mils instead of down to 3 7/8. I've just got an extra 6 inches or whatever, 9 inches of strand to play with. 4 1/8 inch for the last one. I might extend that to 4. Probably not. No, I'll leave it as it is. Because with this little cutter, doing it the way I did, if you have a look at the pitch of the plaiting, the angle of it, it's pretty much about right. I want it to be about 90 degrees, maybe a little over, but not much under. And it's also really quite a consistent angle all the way down. So for this taper, and also this one here, although the strands do vary in width, case in point here, narrow, wide, they even each other out on the other side. So it's nice and straight, and the overall width of strand is enough that I don't actually have to doctor these any further. All I have to do is cut them, grease them, stretch them, pare them, plait them. Right, so the actual cutting bit. This is the same skin. It's 1.0 mils. First thing to do is find my little knife here and cut off any sharp curves, any little noses, so that when it comes to cutting the strand I don't have any bulb. This is probably a bit more hacking off than needed for here, but just to illustrate how one trims up one's skin a little bit to allow for easier cutting. There's a slightly ragged bit there. Just like so. The wider the strands, the wider the curve. You need to cut them round, and these aren't desperately wide, 3 to 4.5 mil. Also want to check for scars. I didn't mention that doing the belly, but you want to check for scars at each stage and make sure there aren't any, because scarred leather is much weaker than the clean stuff. Right. Okay, so I'm going to be cutting these strands from the shortest pair up to the longest pair, so I'm using up the more stretchy outer leather for the strands which would, were it plaited from the butt, be dropped into the core and not continue to the end, so that when it comes time to do the big long double taper strands that form the English eye, I'll have the more even central leather to cut from. I'm not going to cut the lot because, I mean, you've seen this before, it's all a bit tedious, but if I start cutting at this point, then I should be okay. What have I got here? I want 4 1/8 mil. 1, 2, 3, 4 1/8, and I'm increasing that to 4.5, and then 3 at 4.5. This up and down business here, that refers to the 2 pairs of longer strands. The actual formula here, I have to refer to this and cross them off, so make sure I don't do them twice. So what have we got? 4 1/8 going up the way. Okay. Oh, when I'm doing it like this, from a point here and I can't pull the strand out like this, it helps to cheat and go, right, there's 1 interval, and there's 2. Oh yeah, and I've also pre-stretched this as for the belly. Right, so I'm going up to there. So 4 1/8. Four 2/8. Let's get over the top so you can see this. Keep on noticing my little guide pencil pointing towards the tankard rather than the work. 4 and 3/8. And by using little points between the flats, I can also go as far as 16ths with this. Thusly, it's to there, isn't it? 4 and it's much easier standing, really. A nice beam or something, or a standing table, not squatting around a little tent, or a big tent anyway. Where are we? Now I need 3 at 4.5. That's 1 at 4.5. 2 at 4.5. 3 at 4. And a half. Okay, that's one of the pair. Very slight taper. 4 1/8 to 4.5. Not a lot, is it? So, next up, let's just make sure I've got this right. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1/8. Oh yeah, and give this another stretch, especially because around the corner here it gets a little bit on the floppy side. There we go. It's that long at 4 3/4 because I have the grip 6 inches, the butt extension to put onto so to keep the tension on the grip, that's another 5 inches, times 1.5, 1.5 times the grip plus the butt extension, plus spare to hang on to, about a foot's worth, which may well get cut, well, it will get cut off along with the butt extension at the end of play. Right, distracting myself again. 1, 2, 3, 4 1/8. Grab my little stick, and this is where the snap-off blades are better than the hook blades. The hook blades hang on to the leather better, but the snap-off ones you can poke through like that and snap them off when you've done with them, although I do prefer to take them out and sharpen them. Not that I'm stingy or anything, but you can get a better edge on them that way than they actually arrived with, using a steel or a strop. If it doesn't work, you can throw a strop. Right. So yak and rabbit, forget where I am. Where am I? 4 1/8. Good, jolly good. Let's push them in the little hole that it's made, and four and 2/8. 4 and 3/8. 4 and 4/8. Notice I'm letting it crinkle slightly up here, whereas I kept it really quite flat down there, because this is a much stretchier section of leather, so you know there's an element of knob twiddling and an element of guesswork. Well, when I say guesswork, I mean if you've got variable leather, then experience is good, yeah? What am I up to? 3 at 4.5. 1. 2 4.5. Did I say 3.5 or 4.5? Well, whatever it is, it's 4.5. One more. There we go. And 3 inches, so I know where to insert 3 inches before it's due, basically, of yoke. Where are you? There you are. Round off this little bit here, and that's me ready to cut the next strand. Oh no, I'm not. No, what I first have to do is grab my pencil and tick. I've cut 2 sets of the same ones before, you see. Right. The other added strands are like this, but longer. And the double taper strands are like the belly strands, but taper the other way. I think that's about it for now. So I'll get the rest of these strands cut and prepared and join you, or you'll join me, or you might not. But anyway, I'll be on with the English eye next. So catch you later. Well, there you are. Hello. Bye now.